Yo, what up? Toshi here. Today is Husbando Day. We're going to be talking about Argenti. Now, I'm surprised I never made a dedicated video for the character. Part of the reason why is because Huo has been taking all the spotlight on this channel. I do apologize for not making a video about him. I guess we did kind of before, but it was nothing really good to say about the character. But today I will try my best to give you all as much crucial information as I can about the character and what I think about him as for your account, because he still does hold value as being an I can't even say that with a straight face. Now, to be honest, most people that are rolling for Argenti are definitely going for him based on design alone. And I'm with you on that. I think characters like Luocha, as for Hans Bondos, look really good. He has my favorite design when it comes to male characters because his style matches very well. The fact that his hair looks really good as it is while being long and blonde. You don't have very many characters in many games that look as good as Luocha. Now, as easy as it is to glaze male characters in Honkai Star, pause on that one. I assume most people are not rolling for Argenti because he's an erudition character. Because if you are pulling for him based on where he is in the paths, well, you're shooting yourself in the foot with the destruction running rampant and characters like Clara existing as a physical destruction character that has AoE in her kit. However, we do have some very solid erudition characters, and over time, they've started to become better. Now, a character like Jing has always been good since the dawn of time. If that's a reference to his light cone, I definitely did not mean to make that one. But he's a character that has gotten a lot better in the recent past, and that is thanks to better options in terms of defensive options coming out for him, such as Fushuan, and better ways of being able to deal damage, such as characters like Topaz, if you maybe have her first Eidolon and her light cone. Even then, I still think she's a very solid character to have in the same team with him, because she still is a skill point positive support that you can use alongside Jing. Now, Jing does play different from all the other characters in the erudition path. See, most of his damage comes from Lightning Lord, especially when you take into consideration characters like Topaz enhances the amount of damage he does with follow-up attacks. You're going to get most of your damage from the Lightning Lord, so the backloaded damage is what makes this character very good in scenarios. However, a character like Heiko has had a lot of value, and she's a very nice character if you want to use her in various contents. Now, she is a character that does get better with Eidolons, and if you honestly use her before you have Eidolons for the character, you have to build your team around her, because she is a character that has a bunch of cons in her kit, but the pros definitely do make up for it if you do get some of her best supporters. And one of my personal favorites, Himiko, who has had a lot of value ever since the release of Topaz. I still think Himiko was a great character before. The only issue was that you probably weren't going to build your Himiko when you had other damage dealers to build. But once you did get your Himiko built, and the ball started rolling, you realize this character did a lot of damage, especially if there was many enemies that were weak to fire. And then Herta is a character I'm actually building right now, and that is because I definitely want to play around with her. I did play with her in the beginning of the game, and she was very fun. She is, in my opinion, one of the most fun characters because the follow-up attack she has makes her a joy to use in contents where there is AoE enemies that are weak to ice, so such like the simulated universe. But you're pulling for Argenti because you want him to clear all the content in the game. And I understand that sentiment. You definitely want him to be a very strong damage dealer because all the other damage dealers have been very strong as of recently. So you want to make sure that your 150 pool investment is going to be a good investment for your account long term. And for that, I can definitely say that Argenti is going to be a very solid character. I will say though, one of the things about Argenti that does disappoint me the most is that his teams are not that flexible. You see, he's a character that gets most of his value from his ultimate, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It just means that you have to build your team around him to make sure that he gets his ultimate as often as possible. So you're going to have to utilize characters like Ting Yun that provides energy to the single ally, which means you are pigeonholed into having a hyper carry team composition, whether you like it or not. And with the release of Huo, that's going to stand even more true. Now, I do believe Huo was a character that definitely did have Argenti in mind, because she does provide energy and attack to the team, all of which does last for 2 turns the attack increase, which is very good for hypercarry teams in general. So if you have Ting Yun and you have Huo, you're going to give a lot of energy to that damage dealer, in this case Argenti. One of the best things I can say about Argenti is that he does have one of the best light cones, in my opinion, tailor-made for him. I mean, you get energy whenever you start the battle, and you get to increase your ultimate damage. And for a character that is dependent on his ultimate, you increase the damage and you get the energy needed for that ultimate, you're going to get one of the best light cones you can have for the character, and a free-to-play option at that. And at max refinements, you're looking at a 64% damage increase, which is very good for a character that deals most of his damage from his ult. Now, if you do plan to use him with Huo or any other abundance character, you're definitely going to want to use Quid Pro Quo because he's a character that is going to be under that 50% energy threshold more often than your other characters. Now, one of the things about Argenti is that you're going to probably want to use Bronya. The reason why is because Bronya increases your damage massively. She also makes your damage dealer take more turns, which then in turn generates more energy for that damage dealer. So Argenti, more often than not, is going to utilize a character like Bronya more than other characters. Now, however, that does change with characters like Hanya, who may just be one of the best supporters for Argenti. We'll have to wait and see, of course, and one of the best things for Hanya is that she can use Planetary Rendezvous, whereas Bronya can't utilize a Lycoon. But however, he is a character that does not have any backloaded damage, so therefore he utilizes all the buff Bronya provides anyways. So if you're looking for a team for Argenti, you're most likely going to use the standard Hypercarry team comp, which is featured with Ting Yun and Bronya, giving lots of energy to that ally, Ting Yun giving the speed to the ally, and Bronya giving the turns to that ally, making sure they take more turns and deal more damage and get more energy. And then you have Huo, who is probably going to be the defensive option you end up using in this team comp, because unfortunately, there is no other character that seems tailor-made for Argenti just because of how expensive he is as a character to build teams around. Yeah, that is going to be the last con of this character. He seems like a character that just needs so much to get the job done. And if you take into consideration, there is other characters, unfortunately like Clara, that does not need as much effort to get the job done with Argenti, then you probably will end up wanting to just use this character over him. That's only because she is a character you get from the standard banner, or you maybe luck out and get from your beginner banner pools, or you lose your 50-50 to her. And she is a character that does not take any effort to, get going, because she is self-sufficient. Now, one of the things worth mentioning is that he may have synergy with Kafka. I said may. The reason why I say that is because Argenti is a character that, just like Kafka, is pretty much ult dependent. Now, Kafka does do nice dot detonation with her elemental skill, but again, her ultimate detonates dots on AoE, which for Argenti, his ultimate is where most of his damage comes from. And well, the synergy that they have is that Argenti is able to break the toughness of the enemies, and then Kafka can detonate those dots, those bleed dots that he puts on the enemy from breaking the toughness with Kafka's ultimate. But again, that just sounds so expensive. And then you're going to have to need Huo as well, and then you're probably going to use Ting Yun, when you can just use Luca, who is a character that may not have AoE in his kit, but still gets the job done as a 4-star physical damage dealer. And then we also have Su Sheng, who is another character that if you want to play around with breaking the enemy's toughness bars, with putting that physical bleed on them, right? And Su Sheng is a character you can use break effect on anyways, so therefore the dots you put on the enemies would be increased. Still, again, you can just use her over Argenti if you really want to have that playstyle with Kafka. So Clara is a character that may not have much synergy with Kafka, but again, you can just use her in place of Argenti if you want to have a physical dot enabler alongside Kafka, which again, you probably just don't want to use Clara, but if you really, really do want to use a character, just use her instead. That's going to be the video here. Now, as for Argenti, he's a character that is really hard to sugarcoat. I'm not going to lie to you all. He is looking pretty grim, but you can roll for him if you choose to do so, because Honkai Star Rail is a very easy game. I mean, when we see people clearing, the Memories of Chaos with Arlen, that lets me know that, well, one of the worst characters in the game is a character that is still able to clear the hardest content in the game, right? So therefore, who gives up about what Toshi thinks? Roll for him if you really want him, right? That's going to be the video here. Hopefully you got something out of this, and have a nice rest of your day. Peace.